all
them
these.
on I think I've convinced people to set those aside.
Okay. We wanted to put all these in one spreadsheet to show where the requests were. There's some notes on the side about what people are being increased from or what pay grade they're going to. And then in the very middle column shows the total payroll increase, so the total.
And some of that's been changed. Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
It's been changed a little bit. So if you want me to go through that, kind of what I thought I would do. Huh?
I don't know.
Let me stand like way back here. Okay. That works. These were also, we were asked to actually, Heather was asked to go back and look at any requests that were made of department heads at budget meetings last October. Now, some of these that you have before you have already, I'll go through this, some have already been like off the table. Some people, I've tried to meet with everyone to kind of gather their thoughts and where they want to go with this. So you want me to go ahead and...
Sure.
I have quite a few things to try to get through.
Sure.
Okay. The Community Affairs Liaison, that was actually presented last month at the council meeting, and I believe that's voted through tonight on the second and third reading. That was taken care of. Yeah, and how you all want to go through with this, because I have several things I'm going to hit you with, and then you all can kind of collectively decide what you want to do from there, and then kind of let me know.
Sure.
That's, or meet
I
with.
have a question on the first one.
Of course you do.
The amount, that's the salary.
The same salary he's currently making.
It says total pay increase.
It includes all benefits.
That's
Same-
your payroll
same as
taxes.
today with the other position. Heather figures that amount.
That has the Social Security onto it.
If you look at the very bottom, there's a 39,17503 Social Security and Empress impact. That's for all of these.
Gotcha. Thank you.
The next one is the engineering project manager. This is actually a position we currently have. We currently have someone in a position that we hired probably back in 2009 or 10 when we first started, when we took over sewer. And he was actually had experience with a CAD program. He could come in and go out in the field, look at where the sewers need to be, look at where streets need to be, do all that, do all the, what do you call the sight lines and all that kind of stuff on that, come back, make a design, and then Andy could either bid that out to contractors or they would do the work in-house. That job has kind of evolved over the course of the last 6 or 7 years. And because it's evolved, part of what we do internally is when those things change, kind of look at those and try to reevaluate those. We did have it reevaluated and moved that to a project manager title. We currently have a job description. This person would go from a pay grade 5 to a pay grade 6. The total impact on his salary would probably be no more than $3,000. He's actually even going into the next pay grade, has the same salary, but when you look at his experience and what we've invested in him with training and things like that, obviously Andy Crouch, as the department head, would have to make that decision, but it was recommended by the consultant that it would probably be, and we pretty much all agreed, and Andy was involved in that, it would be probably as little as 3, no more than probably 4 as an adjustment.
And Kim, if I
If
can
there were
add to that,
adjustment.
because I meet regularly with Andy, that basically that he's in this position, what he's doing is saving the city money, because he's doing a lot of
Absolutely.
stuff in-house, all of the site designs and everything. I know he's done Duffy's. I know he did Allison Brook Park. I know there's several projects that he's actually saved more than $3,000 just by handling these project from beginning to end. He actually goes out and does the site inspections, make sure everything's on
That's
track
what
and in line.
Survey and site inspection, that's
Yes,
what I was looking
he
for.
does all of that, so he's actually $3,000 what he's saving the city.
And probably
I
another
support
very
that.
legitimate question you're probably asking yourself is why have we allowed somebody to morph into a position? We don't usually do that, but when we hired this position, we pretty much knew with the advent of the construction department and with the increase and expansion of all the sewer lines and all those kinds of things, that this position would eventually morph into something bigger. And we pretty much knew that and pretty much told this individual going in that eventually you're going to kind of pretty much create this position. And Andy, as a city engineer, along with Len Ashak, has kind of helped guide this person. We've invested a lot of time and training into this person. If we lost him, I really don't know that Andy, from what Andy is telling me, he'd find somebody else to. Not that this individual is saying, I don't even know that he knows that this is a topic of conversation. So, but from an HR standpoint, when you actually are paying somebody to do a job that you hired them for and they're not really doing that, it's a risk and a liability then to continue to allow that to happen and not pay them for the jobs and the duty that they're actually performing.
And I know him doing his due diligence. I know 2 projects he actually saved us on because he just went out just to check on them. One was the curb work was going to be totally wrong. So if he would have stopped it as they started it, that all would have had been ripped out, redone, would have been change ordered. So he's doing a good job.
So that's that. And he's currently at $49,000 a year, just for your information. The next one, number 3, where we've got the fire salaries, change captain to battalion chief, you can scratch that out. The next line where it says fire part-time, Heather's not real sure how the $30,000 got in there. That's apparently what the police department had requested, but I have confirmed with Chief Hedrick, fire department, that this would be a part-time position. It would be an administrative assistant 1 that starts at like $12.38 an hour. So we're looking at probably more of a $20,000 a year salary, not $30,000. They would have no benefits.
Do we know the responsibilities of this person?
We don't have I mean, most of the admin assistant positions pretty much serve in a support role in terms of clerical with probably helping Sissy out in her day-to-day activities with processing payroll, timekeeping, administrative functions with claims.
It was very briefly presented to me as an extra help for Sissy and someone to be present when Sissy's out on vacation or out sick.
It's like people that, when she's, like to your point, Matt, when she's not there, being that contact person, if they've got a crew going out to do something in the schools for training or for education, if they need to try to, follow up with, we're going to be late, or we need to cancel today, there's sometimes, I don't know if you've ever had that, if she's gone, the phone just kind of rings because there's not anybody there at that desk to answer it, so. Okay, the next one is our, pardon me?
Do we have an idea how long?
The one who's there, the full-time that we have now, it's been there as long as I've been employed, so I've been here for 12 years.
Okay, and what have they done in the past when we have those situations where the person is sick?
I think they just have whoever's there on station sit up there and answer the phone, or have the phone transferred back to the fire department. I don't know, because I have other numbers I can call, so if she doesn't answer, I just
Go to the
Call
next.
somebody
call
else.
numbers that people don't have. So I apologize, I really can't answer that one. But the next one is under the building commissioners. This is something that I think we talked about a year ago, and it says service maintenance technician, but back on March the 12th of 2015 at a finance committee meeting, I know Nathan, I know you were there. Lisa, I'm pretty sure you were there. We actually have a job description for that, and we called it a facility and grounds maintenance coordinator is what we had it titled. And that was the position, and actually it's not at 52 either. If you look at the pay grade, it would be a pay grade 5, which would be starting at 44 and the midpoint being 49. And that was the person that they were looking at to kind of pick up the pieces for maintaining things at the fire department and things at the police department, given like they have that specialized equipment up there now in the building, and somebody to call like after hours if Larry's not available, to kind of offset maybe some of the time that Larry spends doing some of that stuff. So there is currently a job description because it was proposed, I looked at my notes, on March 12th of 2015, and we did call it a facility and grounds maintenance coordinator position. It would be a pay grade 5, which would be the minimum salary at 44. I think I just said that. So
Who's been doing that now?
no one.
Well, and it's for
Contracted out.
police, and this was the one where we had the little meeting before, right? And we discussed adding this person that would take care of this building, fire departments,
And the
police
police.
department.
I think currently they're probably contracting out. They
Has
call
anyone
a plumber,
contacted, has this went through a fire? I mean, the casual conversations I've had with fire, they weren't particularly too keen with this idea. Like, has this hashed its way through anywhere other than,
A year ago, I was under the impression police and fire were kind of driving that with Larry, that they were all kind of jointly,
Is this the
What's
service
that?
maintenance technician?
I don't,
Is that the line we're on?
yes. Other than when it was discussed last March, we actually drafted a job description and called it a facility and grounds maintenance coordinator.
He's also asking for a vehicle and tools.
that would where we would have to weigh, does this outweigh if it's just contracted out?
Which brings me to the next one.
Taxpayers' money.
Yeah, under the building commissioner for plumbing and heating inspector. And I thought Larry was going to maybe try to pop in here real quick because he has let me know that, and I do know for a fact we used to have a person because they retired. But apparently with all the number of inspections that they're doing, apparently we're supposed to have that inspector by ordinance.
By
My-
state statute, not by ordinance, that's by state statute.
Okay, thank you. I get those. My recommendation to him is if there's not that many, and it's kind of sporadic from week to week, why not contract that out to somebody? If you know that, I think he has the person who retired from here who's still available. You know, my idea would be on a Friday afternoon, if you pretty much know what inspections need to occur the next week, somebody in his office would call that individual and say, you have 10 inspections, here's the names and phone numbers, or have that ticket ready for him to come in Monday morning, get those schedules and just pay as a contractor. But I don't think Larry is opposed to that at all. So I don't think he had thought that that was an option. So that's kind of Kim kind of throwing that out there. The next one, under the planner one, and this is something actually, unfortunately with the timing of Shane leaving, this is something we had already talked about, Shane, and Nathan and I had actually discussed this prior to Shane ever turning in his resignation. This would not be a new position. We currently have 2 planning and zoning administrators in there. You know, we just hired a new one. And then what Nathan's was going to be, given his skill set and what he had, we were looking at changing, like a lot of municipalities have a planner 1, a planner 2, then they have their administrators. We were looking to change that to a planner 1. And basically they would just kind of amp up a little more of their responsibilities, not be an assistant to the director, but more of a hands-on person doing more of the planning, the coordinating, writing comprehensive plans, following up with those kinds of things. If that happens, we don't have a position description yet for that. If that occurs, we're only talking about probably anywhere between a $5,000 and $7,000 pay increase, and that 5 and 7 would depend upon that person's credentials and skill set. So just basically changing the current title that we have to a planner 1 versus zoning administrator.
So the amount that you have here, the amount 4950, that's inaccurate. Did you just say something 7,000?
If you looked at the 46,000 over to the right, my guess is that person probably be more like closer to a 49, maybe 50. It would probably, look at my pay grade. I can't read my writing. I'm not joking, you should see this.
So basically, instead of having 2 assistants, you're going to have a step up, 1 to 2.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it'd be more of a
You're
tier.
going to increase the salary of the 1-tiered planning and zoning.
Yeah, there'd be like a planning director
An
and
increase
then a
probably
planner 1.
$5,000 to $7,000 more than the current salary.
Right. And again, depending upon, I say that 5 to 8, depending upon what that person brings to the table. I mean, obviously, we're going to hire somebody in that has more than what we have for the zoning administrators, which at the time, you know, Shane and I talked about that before and just never went anywhere with it. And then Nathan came on board and he's like, that's the kind of person I'm talking about. And then when you can kind of see what that person brought to the table and their experience, and they can take those things to the next level and kind of run with some things with not fully being the department head,
Right.
That's kind of what we're talking about. So then if you look at the next one, under the zoning administrator, you can go ahead and take that off. And we have on there increase to 40. And just to kind of prove a point that we don't just take numbers and plug in people to whatever number's there. The person who we just hired, we initially offered him 36. Landed on 38. Didn't have to go to 40, so Saved you $2,000.
We're keeping the position, or you're wanting to keep the position, but you said mark off increase to 40 and make that 38. Am I following right, Kim?
Yes, yes.
I marked the whole thing out, but no, we want that position.
Yes, because it is a current position. Yeah, he started like 3 weeks ago.
Thank you.
So then is that an increase for an additional, or is that,
It was in the line, it was already in the budget.
okay, the 38 was?
Mhm.
Okay. So there's no additional there.
Oh, the planning and zoning director.
3 minutes are up.
Oh, you're not going to give out, I'm going to hold up one for, I need 3 hours of what I need. That's why I'm talking so fast, and I apologize, because I start getting all rattly when I start talking too fast, too, because I've got so much to get through.
Chinese, funny.
For the next two, Kim, just to give a little background, the next two are the Director of Planning and Zoning and the Controller for the Finance Department. And we have two new people in those positions now. And the mayor had called me when those people were put in place, requesting salaries that were above 25% of the pay grade. I was unsure, and I called Scott about this. I didn't know if we could put that out in an email and get a consensus on approving that, or if we actually had to approve that at a meeting. So called Scott. He said, look at the language in the salary administration policy. We did look at the salary administration policy and realized that actually we were doing things a little bit wrong. Not wrong, but we were mistaken on how the procedure was laid out.
Particularly the procedure with internal promotions. That's,
Right.
we've really never had that.
Right.
So the problem was you had to connect the dots with if this, then this, if that, then this.
Right. The procedure set out in the policy is that if there is someone who is promoted into a new position, that the mayor or the department head can offer up to 50% of the salary, so up to midpoint. Whereas if a new person were to be hired in, the offer could only be 25% of the salary range.
For new hires and laterals, because that was already existing person and they were moving internally.
Right.
Took me about an hour to figure that out, but.
Right. So both of these, the Director of Planning and Zoning and the Controller, both of those have already been approved by the Mayor's office. One, the 57 for the Director of Planning and Zoning, is not quite up to midpoint, but it is above that 25%, and then the Controller was brought up to midpoint.
And when you look at the reason, and again, to kind of try to not to beat a dead horse, but for those that are new, because I know historically, I feel that there's been this belief that if we had this dollar amount, everybody went straight to that dollar amount. If you can give them this much, then we were all giving them that much. And I can assure you that that is not true. And there's another case in point, is because Nathan doesn't have that 10 years experience, which typically your midpoint is someone who has 10 years experience and is considered competent in their field, which is why I think the mayor landed more on the 47 versus the 49, because the 49 is that midpoint, and he's a little left of the midpoint, which is why the 47.
I mean, 57.
57.
57.
And how many employees does he?
I had to go get a pair of sheets. I left my reading glasses at home, so.
How many employees does he manage, like, in his department?
Nathan, he has 2 code enforcement officers and 2 planning, zoning administrators, so 4.
And does he have a master's degree, too?
Mm-hmm.
And Heather, how many people do you manage? 6. Do you have a master's degree?
How many years?
She has like 15 years
So you got a
experience
lot of years
versus,
experience.
yeah.
She knows
It
her
all
stuff.
kind
I'll
of-
vouch for that.
You lost me
Absolutely.
on, when you said the numbers are there, but it doesn't really mean that's how much they're making. You said something like that? When you had this conversation?
Like, historically, and I mean, I know that I have had before, I've had people say to me, well, if you had this dollar amount and you could pay them that, I feel that you're always paying people whatever that line item or whatever that dollar amount is. And that is not the case. And what I was trying to explain is that's a case in point for Nathan. We didn't take him completely to that midpoint. He's, $2,000 less than that midpoint. We don't always just look at that number and say, hey, look, we can.
There.
Just because it's there doesn't mean we always pay him that. So, I mean, I know people don't always believe that, but it's, you know, and I have all my internal battles sometimes that I don't, you know, share with everyone, but trying to get people to understand that, because I know when I first started working here, the way the salary ordinance was, they had a salary, and it had a dollar amount, and I could have been here for 20 years and left. You come along, you have no experience, and I'm not joking, people would say, well, it says right here, you can make $70,000, and this is your title, so we're paying you $70,000. Yeah, I mean,
Exactly what happened.
it was
That's why we went this
insane,
way.
which is how we got started on the pay grade system, because we had people making $10 an hour and $20 an hour for the same job, and oftentimes it was completely reversed on their length of service. So we really do try, and I really work hard with department heads and trying to get them to understand you have to look at the experience, the education, and what they bring to the table, and just because that dollar amount is there doesn't mean you always get that dollar amount.
Kim, help me understand, under the controller, the former controller, what was that level at? 72.
That's why the difference is only 60.
And we're wanting to go to 78, is that what I'm hearing?
And if you look at the salary administration policy, we can do that. But Amy was in,
I get that. But when we pay Liz to get market rates, and we go and
for
get
new
them,
positions.
and we get them, at some point, this was market rate, I mean,
Yes.
and then we've increased it
4 years
over the
ago.
years. We've increased it.
This has been the same for 4 years. This has not changed for 4 years.
Has,
That's my next
Ha-
thing. No, it's
no.
not changed for 4 years. The only thing we
what I'm trying
did
to
2
say
years
is,
ago was
we have
change
got,
the
they have gotten
1As to 1.
increases.
Pardon
They
me?
have gotten increases over the 4 years, is what I'm
Yes.
trying to say.
Merit increases. That has nothing to do
So-
with market rate. Two different things.
Merit, no, I think we're using different terms. Up to, what, 3 to 5%, based on,
On merit increase,
on their evaluations,
performance
which,
increase.
performance, that's better. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is, when we set this up, the issue we had was what you were talking about before, of you'd have some positions that you just had a number there, and that's what it was always was. It was not fair to bring somebody into that number who's new. And so we went to this process where we try to go get market rates, and we try to give increases every year. We make it available depending on their performance.
It depends on dollars available to the agency that,
Yeah, but I'm saying the council has put money in there for the increases. And so whenever we have somebody leave, and we just say, oh, we need to increase the new person above the other one by a fair amount, I always just pause, and I just say, well, why? Because we went to market rate, and
well, we actually asked for more money for Amy, if you recall, and it was denied.
okay.
More than
Oh,
what
I
she was being
remember we
paid
said we were gonna get
was
it.
requested, and it was denied,
And I
so.
don't think the request ever
She
came back.
personally pretty much asked the mayor, I don't want to be that person that everybody's talking about. I want the job, I'll take it, and we'll see how it pans out. And then at her budget request meeting last year, she made an additional request, and it was denied,
And she
you
left.
know. Pardon me?
That's why she left.
It's not
I
what
mean,
I was told.
not completely, but
Yeah,
I
it's-
think,
I was
yeah.
gonna say, I talked to Amy.
I mean, she's making almost $20,000 more than, less responsibility.
Well, we also had Shane leave, we had everybody else leave too.
And they are all making, oh, yeah,
And she
I mean,
just
we
got a
can't
master's
compete
degree,
with the
too.
private
she
sector.
did.
I think a point though is, to Nathan's point, that we've had somebody go out and get a market rate for these positions. What came back to us from the market was a pay range.
And that's still what we have. And to my next point, when I get to the pay grades, our pay grades are almost 5 years behind the times.
But we're still
Which is
working within
indicative of
those
why
pay
we're having the
grades.
turnover.
But we're still working within those pay grades, and nobody
Why we
has,
have a lot of turnover.
nobody has requested or been offered or been, given anything that's outside of that was brought to us from the consultant to say that this is what someone with 10 years of experience in this field is worth.
No, I've always said the 10 years is
Is the
and part of
min-
the issue is we got really stuck when this last administration made some changes with some people that they brought in, and the council made the decision that we couldn't hire anybody below the minimum. That was in effect for over 2 years, guys. We didn't hire anybody above the minimum for 2 years. That really then stagnated that growth. Not only did it stagnate and try to keep us from hiring really good qualified candidates at the get-go at the minimum, because there was an ordinance that passed, or whatever executive decision, I don't know if it's an ordinance or not, but the decision was made by the council that no one could be hired above the minimum. And that was probably 2 years. So you look at 2008, 2009, and into 2010, everybody we brought in, Amy was one of those people, brought in at the minimum. You kind of then compress that range, and you're not actually being able to pay people at the entry level with what they bring to the table.
And my point, or maybe, I don't know if it's a frustration or just a comment, is, we went to this, and we try to get the outside consultants to tell us what they need to be, because probably most of us around this table don't know whatever position for the city, what the pay rate should be. So we get an outsider to tell us the market rates. And then it just seems like we have different times, we have people leave, and anytime somebody leaves, we automatically assume it's cause of money. And I'm telling you,
Well, automatically
not
what?
always cause of money,
No,
because
it
this is a
doesn't,
meat
no.
grinder.
It is.
I mean, the election process was horrible. We all know that. And if you can go somewhere else and not have to deal with that, okay. And I want to pay people what they need to be paid. I'm not trying to be Scrooge. That's why I thought, maybe we need to relook at our ranges more often. What that will do.
Okay, let's back up a little bit,
That'll
and I have
cost
that
us
date as well.
a lot of
In
money.
March of 2015, I made a proposal to the Finance Committee meeting. I made a proposal on 4/6 at a council meeting, and on 4/6 at a council meeting, 4/20 at a council meeting, and one of the consultants' recommendation was, you've got to revisit this. It's stagnant, it's 4 years old. But when we did the salary administration policy 2 years prior to that, we removed the piece that said every 2 years, HR will take the jobs out to the market and reevaluate those, and put in as needed. So the as needed was in March of 15th, I made the request, and I was asked to put it on hold. So it's been on hold since March of 15th.
And I thought-
I've moved forward, and I have that for you.
I thought the process too, Kim, was not to have them look at every position.
I
Look
didn't
at
do
key
that.
positions.
Didn't do that. That was originally
To see how,
right.
has every position increased by, 6%? Okay, then we apply that. But is that what you're proposing, or I don't want to get ahead?
No,
of that.
and I'll get to that in a minute, because I do think, and so does Liz, she feels that that's a waste of our dollars to spend her time doing that. But you look at kind of key positions, what I do is look at where we're having our turnover, and look at turnover rates, and look at, okay, it doesn't take a genius to figure out where our turnover rates are and where issues are. And to your point earlier about some people stay when the salaries aren't that great, we have great benefits here. That in and of itself is a huge attraction to a lot of people. We have a lot of people who, on the flip side of that, will take a $10,000 or $20,000 pay decrease to come here because of the benefits. So it's very personal, it's very individual for every person.
So what is the range for the controller?
It is a pay range 8, and it starts at 60, and the midpoint is 78,
In the top?
96.
Hey, Nathan, keep in mind too,
It's in your little binder.
we did
back
pay
here.
half of Amy's student loan, and then she ended up leaving. But also, we paid above, we did that with Christine when we brought her in. We got the support for that, and also all the new finance. We paid, it was almost like 25% above, or I don't know the exact numbers, to bring in their hires. Correct? We did. So I don't want anybody to think that we're being up, we're not. We've been very open to that.
So you're asking to raise it to the mid-range?
Yes, and actually.
Well, you're not
it's
really
with-
asking because
No,
it's within the
it falls
authority of the mayor,
within the
right?
salary administration
Yeah.
policy that we can do that.
But, I mean, has the money been appropriated?
Correct. We need to.
We would like to appropriate it.
That part I don't know. I
But
don't know
I
that
assume
part.
legally we have to. I don't know.
Well, you're asking us to take action.
Right, no.
To satisfy that.
For the finance part, yes. For the salary ordinance, no.
Just needs to be appropriated. Gotcha.
That's the part I don't ask me those questions, Justin. Still not completely clear I'm doing all this right, so. I mean, it
All right.
gets, I mean, there are days I have to stop and kind of go, oh my gosh, now where am I and who's what? And
Right.
so it does get very overwhelming and very confusing. And I've spent hours going back looking through. I keep all this stuff in a binder. That's how, to your point, that's how I have those dates, because I'm kind of like, I know I've done this. I know they're going to ask me, and glad I looked it up. Okay, so we are,
Number 11.
yes, thank you, payroll specialist. Heather, do you want to talk a little bit about that since you're here, or do you want me to go ahead and talk about what we discussed? And I'm not talking too fast, sorry. I had an extra cup
you're
of coffee
fine.
today,
Keep going.
too. so
You're
I'm
fine.
like-
You're on a roll, keep going.
Payroll specialist, we currently have one person in finance that does payroll. I have said for years, if and when we really have a bad day and something happens and it's an awful, we're gonna be in a lot of trouble. It did happen once when she was on maternity leave and it didn't work out so well. And when we started, for those of you who are new, but 2 years ago, we started the timekeeping system Kronos, and that was kind of being driven by our former controller, or 2 controllers ago, and that was all going to be run through finance. When she was asked to leave, then all of a sudden we were like in this kind of mode to try to figure out how we're going to do Kronos, and it was kind of like, oh, Kim, I think that new girl you just hired in Human Resources, I think has some experience with timekeeping. We're going to give her this, and you all are going to manage timekeeping. So we pretty much did that. That person got things up and rolling with the idea that it was going to kind of be handed back out of payroll, because there's pieces that are HR related, but not much. Most of it's more finance related. But with having one payroll clerk, it's just almost impossible for that person to try to manage all of that and the Kronos timekeeping issues. So we were hopeful that having her move up to a payroll specialist and then hiring a payroll clerk would help offset, one, have a backup and have a second person to help with all of the payroll function, and then that person would take over the function of payroll and the finance piece in the Kronos timekeeping, so that I could truly have what I intended to have from an HR person, because Christine's spending about half her time every week doing and managing timekeeping and not HR stuff.
And quite a lot of time doing that also.
Yeah. So that's kind of where that came from.
Very difficult for her to manage what she's doing. There's so much quantity that's coming out of the payroll with all the semi-pays and the weekly pays and the specialty pays and all that other kind of stuff. But quantities and then kind of start to lose your quality.
Yeah, and it's not just our employees. We have all of our employees, then we get all the seasonal employees, then we get the ice rink employees, which are kind of seasonal, and then we also have in that same system, we have all of the retirees. They're all through that same system, so anytime there's a glitch, it falls either on about 4 of us. There's only about 4 of us who actually, unless it's like a remote issue that's IT related, then we call Matt in, and we just all pray that it's an IT thing and not, but that doesn't usually happen very often. It's usually something that we have to manage, which usually ends up in a phone call to Kronos, and hours later you have an answer. But, so that's kind of where that came from. The accountant and the AP clerk, we've pretty much already resolved that.
Well, the accountants, I'd like to bring the salary up to the 45, which is not the midpoint, it's lower than the midpoint, up to 25%. Her job duties have changed a lot since the previous accountant was in here. So I just felt like that was a good idea to do that, because I
Mhm.
And then AP clerk, that's the one. That one needs to change from pay grade 2 to pay grade 3, which would be in the same line as the administrative assistant 2. And was there another one?
Mm-mm.
Just
If we add the
so that
payroll
both of
clerk.
those are level, because I'm not sure how the accounts payable person got to be a level 2, but my administrative assistant is a level 3. So that's just, that doesn't have anything to do with money.
Because we changed the duties of that position about a year ago.
Yes, with the new software and all. So that's just changing on the salary limits from pay grade 2 to pay grade 3.
But it doesn't affect her salary because she's already making a salary that's commensurate with a pay grade 3. And comes with about 20 years experience, so. Oh, go ahead.
Paid by WW, is that wastewater?
Yeah, wastewater, that's the other thing I was going to mention. Thank you, Dustin. All of the positions in finance, 20% of their salaries are supported through dollars from the wastewater. So 80% would be out of general fund and 20% out of finance.
Have these increases been taken to the board and approved yet, or are we waiting to see where things land here?
Correct.
Okay.
I wasn't sure with the clerk stenographer.
The clerk stenographer, the clerk did not request this. Actually, I think she asked that we not worry about it. But we have several meetings, and the finance meeting is one where we are required to take minutes. And the clerk isn't always available. The clerk staff isn't always available. So I asked to put something in. There are several places in the salary ordinance that have, like the arts administrator, the Arts Alliance stenographer, I think is a certain dollar amount per meeting. So I had thought maybe
Drainage board.
Drainage has one. I mean,
Planning,
there-
zoning, all of them.
several boards all have a stenographer that is paid per meeting that they do meeting minutes for. And I thought maybe we would put something in for the city council, so if we have a workshop or if we have a finance meeting or some other sort of meeting where we need to take minutes, we're not as reliant on the flexibility of the clerk staff. We can shop that out, if you will, and just pay on a,
So I would just like, once
So
you
it
all
would be-
decide, it would add to that list on the stenographer page with all those other ones. It would be like a clerk stenographer to go along with all the other
right.
20 some odd, okay.
So,
So you're saying going outside the employees of the clerk's office? Because I knew she took that out because they were doing minutes during city time, so they can't get a stipend for that.
Right.
So you're saying outside the clerk's office will have money there for somebody if they have to take minutes? Is that what you're, okay.
That's what I would think. And if members of the clerk staff want to do that, that's fine with me. I don't care if they get the stipend also, but the stipend would have to be for work performed outside of the regular business day. And it would lift a burden off the clerk staff if they're bogged down with other duties.
or they can make extra money.
But I think Ms. Conlon saw that and said, you really don't have to worry about that. We'll take care of it. And she's been very accommodating. But if it's something we can add and relieve that extra burden, and
How much are we asking to do that?
what are the other stenographers
About
paid?
$100.
Like $100
Like
a
$1,200 a
meeting?
year. And if you have a meeting a month,
Yeah,
something like that.
like
So it's here, what are we,
You want to put $1,200 in?
1,200,
just appropriate another 12?
yeah.
Okay.
If we want to go forward that way.
Is there even a line for that currently in,
Yes, in the salary ordinance there is. Well,
No.
this would be an additional, but there is a section of the salary ordinance that addresses that.
Okay, and then the next two things that were asked for at budget time was to change the safety manager to safety director and risk management, and add a safety specialist.
Safety.
And the director of safety and risk management would be pay grade 8. And the safety specialist would be a pay grade 5.
Safety specialist is one that you need to add to your sheet because it's not on here.
Well, it was listed as safety director, but when we actually looked at the duties and responsibilities, and what we were looking, and what the mayor was looking to expand that position to align ourselves with other municipalities, it was director of safety and risk management. So that final.
So and what was the safety specialist what was the number associated with
It
that?
was a pay grade 5.
What's the range?
Pay grade 5 is from 39 to 59.
Okay, thank you.
Well, the pay range starts at 39, and the midpoint's 49, which is why I put 49, because we don't hardly usually ever go above that. And then the safety director's at pay grade 8, which starts at 60, and then the midpoint is 78.
Top,
For the safety director,
yes.
That's
for pay grade 8, the top is 96.
We got to talk about that. This is one I'd like to talk more about because I know I was here and I think Nathan was here when we created this position. And you look at what the fire does, what the fire department does, and their administration, the police department, what they do, and the administration does. And then there was a need. It really came out as a result of a crashed vehicle, a garbage truck, when an employee was under the influence of prescription medicine, and there's been other incidences where there are people under the influence and that caused accidents. And we were also challenged with managing our health insurance and property and casualty insurance. So we created this position to really, there was another issue too, that we were not properly protecting or following OSHA rules and guidelines as far as our employees doing trench work and doing other work, such as wearing the helmets, wearing the vests, and other protective gear. So we created this position to protect our own employees, to do drug testing, to create post-accident protocol, to do drug tests and to do investigations and to supplement and help manage our insurance policy so that our expenses don't go crazy and our claims don't go crazy. It was never intended to be a public, for public safety or public position because we had already increased fire budgets and police budgets for training and so forth. So we really made this for our own employees' safety. And it's kind of been morphed. I think we have a very talented safety manager who's probably overqualified, in my opinion, and he's gotten involved in a lot of other things. When you look at the job description, it does leave it open that he can get involved in a lot more. But I can tell you the intent was never to morph this into a department with a number of employees. The intent was to have somebody who looks after our own employees' safety. And that's why we put it under the Human Resource Department, which is the normal place for
Well, no, because
somebody
I
who
used to
looks...
do it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what was there.
Yeah, and it was
because I used to be
overwhelming.
the
You
HR
couldn't keep up with all that
director
stuff.
And the safety manager.
And
We
then-
had a part-time person for like 5 years.
And then,
Totally unsuccessful.
I called New Albany, and they don't even have this position. A lot of them...
Also don't have an HR director or an HR
Yeah, they
department.
don't.
Contract, yeah, I mean,
You can contract some of this stuff out.
no, but I mean, they don't have an HR department, so.
And so, and you look at a number of cities our size, a lot of them don't even have a position like this, let alone a department like this. I'm not saying all of them. I'm not saying all
Carmel, Elkhart, Kokomo,
of them.
Noblesville,
Green.
Columbus, I believe that. And it's, again, that's how we ended up with the safety risk management piece, because we do manage the risk and we do manage the insurance piece and all that kind of stuff. So to your point, that's kind of why I have pushed that it be a department and that it actually, I mean, I'm pretty much the person who's been nipping at the mayor, even the former mayor. I proposed this back when I worked for Tom Galligan, because I think we have grown to the point where we need somebody to really manage our risk and to do more in-house training and to think both internal and external with issues. Because everything we do internally, I mean, typically our accidents do affect things outside. In fact, when we have snow incidents, when we have thunder, I mean, look at what this position's done to to help define that and control that and to manage our risk and,
Yeah, and, training functions are generally under HR. It is in my company and a lot of other, organizations. And I tell you, in the past, we didn't have even this position at all. And Thunder, we had committees and we had fire department very involved, police very involved, and they still are today. And it's been great to be able to use some of his expertise. But anyway, I just wanted to give some history to the board. It's,
Which is why I think
we can
yeah.
talk through this, but the history was to focus on our own employees, and I think it's morphed into something bigger and bigger and bigger. And let me tell you, I'm in the insurance business, and you could always overspend to reduce risk. At some point, you can assume risk, and yeah, every once in a while there'll be an accident, and you'll have to pay some money. But sometimes you pay more to avoid the accident.
That you're going to have.
Yeah, that it's cheaper to pay the cost for an accident. I'm not talking about injuries, because we should do everything we can to avoid our employees from being injured. But you have to manage risk. You can't avoid risk all the time. It's too expensive.
Yeah, and I kind of back it up more from a training perspective and more from, to your point, that we do have fire and police, but we actually, I think because we have grown so much and we are a Class 2 city and we do so much and there's so much risk and so much opportunity that it is imperative to have somebody at a safety level to be a peer with police chief and fire chief and street commissioner and HR and all those others, because it is such a critical piece to the puzzle.
But even looking at the salary, $78,000 you're looking to go to, and he has no employees yet. He might get one employee. When we have somebody sitting here that's going to has 6 employees, and is going to get paid $78,000. I mean,
Yeah, but you don't, I don't disagree with that, but nobody's asking that. We just put that salary on. It's not like somebody's asking for him to have $78,000. That's just,
that's what I consider that to be if it's in there.
was that within the budget? 'Cause I didn't know if that was I didn't realize that was in the budget. Because I think he's already making 62 maybe?
I do want to add something.
But half of it's also paid by wastewater, so that makes you feel
That is a
better.
concern of mine and that's because I know the amount of time that, and he is out of town, and I know that it's for other business other than the city. I know some things if he does with District 9, we get reimbursed and that, but I also know he's out of town for a lot of trainings, a lot of things. So if we're considering something like this to change into, I would like to have our department head in town more than, I don't know
And
how that would be
again,
around. I just know that he is out of town a lot.
And he's
Whether it's
super-
justified or not, but I just,
He's a great guy, and he's super talented and very qualified. It's nothing personal, that just the position and how we want it to be.
I
moving
let the
forward.
mayor manage me. It's,
It's, I agree with Ed that it's something, this was a part-time position before the person who's in the position now, and the
No, it was a
position-
full-time position before he was there. We had like 3 full-time.
Was it?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, I was going to say,
2002, Danny Rodman,
We had Mike Ogg, we had,
clerk's office.
there's a long history of
I was
carnage.
thinking, I can't even
Leave
think
it
of
at
his
that.
name, I can see him, but I was thinking he was part-time.
2
Oh,
full-time
You're
positions.
exactly right. No, at one point,
3.
there was a part-time.
There was Mike Ogg, there was Dominic, and there was the guy who works, he's a reporter now, John somebody. There've been 3 full-times. Before that, it was,
John Ryder.
no, John Ryder, that's it, yes, John Ryder.
Mike,
3 full-time positions.
what was Mike's name?
Ogg.
Mike Ogg, he was
Dominic
full-time?
Bongarella,
I remember Mike Ogg, I
3 full-time.
thought he was part-time.
And we went from driving, Crown Vics that were passed down from the police to, maybe a little nicer. Now we got a brand new Tahoe. It just keeps,
It's
it makes
grown.
it more like
You proved it.
police and fire.
Right.
And
well, we approved it
that's
because,
just a concern.
I'm here to make the ask. I'm not going to get into all that, but I've got a lot of other stuff I
approved
need
it
to
because he said it was
cover.
needed because of bad weather, but we just had all that bad weather that week and he was out of town, so
What's,
I'm sorry, but.
I agree that maybe this is something we should come back to and look at later, because
And respectfully, we've had our,
sure.
Ed and I definitely disagree.
talked about
And
this,
we've
though.
had very healthy conversations. I still stand, that these, my recommendation has, I've pushed it to the mayor. This isn't somebody else pushing the mayor. This isn't it's not even Amir pushing it to the mayor. It's, whether Amir was here or not, Amir could quit tomorrow and he not even be part of the equation. As an HR person trying to look at the needs of the city and giving recommendations to the administration, and my boss has been for probably the last 6 years, we need a safety director. So,
We have about 30 more minutes. so-
okay. Oh, okay. I just realized I left one of my
Kim, are we done with this page? Are we going to keep doing some more, add to it?
Well, I
I
had
have
3
a
other
question.
requests from people randomly, but I don't
On
think
this
it's
page?
beneficial. I'm not going to
Okay,
bring
go
it
ahead.
up.
I mean,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I don't have to bring it up.
Okay, I mean, I don't mind. I was just going to ask, out of all the stuff on the page, which ones were recommended at budget time? And we said, let's put them off.
I believe all of these, is my understanding. Correct, Heather? I don't see people's budgets, so I really don't know.
The number
So will
2
each one of these
was
things come up
not
on
at
a
budget
separate?
time.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Will each one of these come up on like a separate?
So we need to decide how we're going to read through this and put things that we want to move forward with on one.
And then pass that.
Number 7 was not,
Well, we could do it all separately, but
Mhm.
that would be,
I forgot to copy this upstairs.
number 9 is taken care of.
gives us time to weed through it too.
Yeah, but we did decide, and part of my question was because did we not already say that this number 1 was going to happen before surgery?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was already been approved,
16 and 17 correct.
but we'll approve it tonight.
Yeah, please.
So 2, 6, and 7, is that, did I miss one that we're not?
8's off the table, 9's off the table. 10's off the table. Yes.
And we have,
And all the finance, and 16 and 17.
and I think my point is, we have, for the council, we have more that we know are coming. It's not on here, maybe it's one of your 3, Kim, but I heard we were going to be requested a information officer in the fire department.
No, they're not gonna do that.
They're not going to do that.
I think that's off the table.
They pulled that off?
Table.
Okay.
That got off, I guess.
And then,
That's what I've been told.
okay, we agreed, I know there's some we agreed, or one, the top one maybe we agreed to go ahead and implement right away, but the others I thought we talked about holding till the circuit breakers and just make sure we're good.
And a note on that, budgets should be approved by the DLGF on the 15th of February.
Okay.
And then it takes about a month for the whole state to get approved. And
Then we'll know.
the circuit breaker should come out sometime, I don't think, March. So this is all, gives you some time to think about some things.
Which will kind of wrap up in a minute when I'm done. I'm not close to done yet, so bear with me. But
Okay.
one of the things I have for the goals was to maybe let you guys take all this for February. Actually, when's the first council meeting in March? Is it what would have been President's Day? I think. I'll be out of town that day, so I can't be at that meeting. But I was thinking that maybe once you get everything else I'm going to give you, you all do whatever you need to do with it.
March the
I'm
7th.
available anytime during the month of February, if we need individual meetings, group meetings. Once I give you some of this other stuff, if you want the data and the numbers and the analytics behind what we've gotten, I don't do that. That's why I have to contract that out. If I could do that kind of stuff, I probably would be doing what Liz is doing and working as a contract employee and not doing all this. But that's kind of where we're at next. Patsy went and made a copy because, of course, the one most important thing that I left is the new pay grade thing. Do you want to pass this out real quick? I think I gave most of the new people a copy of this when I had my meetings, but just a little bit of history on the pay grade, and when Patsy gets that back in here. The current pay grade system is based upon pay data collected and analyzed in 2012. It's not been adjusted, or people aren't we have not reviewed the pay ranges periodically. And by not reviewing those periodically, it leads to lower bands, lower quality of individuals that we hire, less competitive pay structures, resulting in difficulty in attracting and maintaining talent for the city, which we've particularly seen with our entry-level laborers, CDL drivers, and kennel attendants. Our turnover rates have been like 60%. I mean, it's kind of like, we no sooner get them started, they get their first paycheck and they've moved on. So when she gets back with that, I'll have that for you. But I'm basically recommending a new pay grade. And what we're doing, kind of to your point, Nathan, as opposed to going out and looking at regrading all those and looking at them, we pretty much know that a lot of those are jobs that we've had. We don't like have a lot of new positions over the course of years. So HR is recommending a new pay grade, and we're going to look at an up-aging snapshot. And what we did was updated as adjustments of new positions because we have fallen behind. And we're looking at an up-aging pay scale. And what our consultant had done was we've rounded it up to a 1.49% versus reevaluating all those positions. And the 1.49% is based upon a cumulative COLA, like the cost of living analysis that she used with Social Security. So she took the rates of Social Security COLA over the last 4 years, got the average of 1.49%, and then adjusted that across our pay ranges versus going out to the market and trying to, because I don't know that that's really going to tell us anything, because I mean, CDL driver is a CDL driver is a CDL driver, other than we do have a lot of turnover right now because I think our rates are low, but I also think there are other things that impact that with all the construction. And we've had a handful of guys who've left here and gone to work for the Bridges Project, doubling their income. So with that being said,
Kim, to add to that real quick, I've had a lot of concern and questions to me, and I said, I don't know. We have CDL drivers that are employed by sanitation and CDL that are employed by, let's say, the sewer department, they have a construction crew. They were saying, why, if they're CDL, I said, why do you get paid so much more over here than you do down here? So why is that? Why, if you have a CDL, why aren't they paid the same if they're...
Well, for one, to drive the trucks that we have, the sanitation trucks, the CDL is required, and to drive the sanitation truck's a little bit different than driving a sludge truck or driving the vac truck or driving the...
So the pay is attached to the job description.
Well, you look at some of the risk that's inherent in that position in terms of dealing with wastewater and sewer and things like that, and the additional training that they have to have. And typically that is, CDL is something that the sewer board has recommended, so it's really not a requirement of them driving because they don't drive those vehicles that are over the 46,000 tons. It's just something that Lynn has always kind of wanted to have. So if in the event they did have a couple trucks, but I think now their sludge truck, they're not taking out where they used to take, so it's not really even
That answers my question.
a requirement. So, and the market for what they do out there is not the same as for a sanitation employee. So with that being said, so the up-aging, the recommendation for that is the 1.49 based upon the cumulative COLA for Social Security over the last 4 years. And that was, we felt like the simplest, probably most cost-effective way to do that. And those are the copies I left on my desk that Patsy went to copy for me. So, and when you get that in a few minutes, it has very little impact, and I'll kind of go over the numbers. I think there's only 23 people that are actually impacted, and I think the total cost of doing that up-aging is like $24,000, whereas I think for those of you who've been around before, Nathan, Lisa, and Ed, I mean, sometimes when we've done that, thank you, when we've done that, oh, I just needed that one page, I'm sorry. I am so sorry, because that's got all the data with individual names on it, which I can't give out. I don't usually, I apologize. I'm so sorry, Patsy. I should have just ran back upstairs and got my copies off my desk. I apologize. I had all these other ones too, and I had notes all over my other ones, so I had to get a clean copy.
Thank you.
Drama queen.
We did this, what was the total cost of this when we did it before?
The total impact,
Right, it was much more expensive.
it was like $90-some-odd thousand.
It was much more expensive.
And actually, even since we've done this, there are 2 people in pay grade 1 who've already left. They've already moved on, they've already resigned. So, and again, this is a proposal, so I would ask, I didn't draft on there, a stamped draft, but I think this is just kind of like a talking point for right now, until you all kind of make your decision. But if you look at like where it says pay grade 1 and then you get new, the first line is actually our current pay grade. So if you look at pay grade 1, currently the minimum is 1125, and it would go to 1180. And if you look at the number of employees affected, if you go down that line, those are the number of employees affected within those pay ranges. So there's only 23 people affected. Like I said, 2 of those have already resigned since we developed this. For the total impact, to bring those folks to minimum is $22,000. And to complicate things even further, there's probably 4, and I need to get hold of Sarah or just look in my HR software. There are several folks, I think it was a year ago, we got rid of the 1A pay grade and moved some of those kennel attendants into just a pay grade 1 because we weren't attracting people, we had such high turnover. So they just had an adjustment. One of the things that is probably worth discussing is that those folks might not get another adjustment, or at least if they got an adjustment, then they if there are any performance increases this year, because that would kind of almost be like a double increase for them in a way. But that only affects, I believe, 4 people, and actually one of them has moved into a new position within the shelter, so it probably would take it down to 3 people. So that's something to kind of think about too.
The changes we make at the very bottom end are so minimal from the standpoint of dollars. Am I understanding that even with your proposal, that pay grade 1, even with the new pay grade, we would have 2 people that are capped?
Yes.
I'd be curious to see how to, if we could raise it where nobody would be. Pay grade 1 is, those are your basic laborers.
I mean, you certainly, yeah, and we
And
have,
the people that are kept have been here forever? We ought to, I mean, I would recommend,
we've
looking
discussed
at the
that. That was a
max, kicking
recommendation
that.
that I made back in March, is what do we do? Because I mean, at some point too, you have to think about how much do you continue to pay a general laborer? And do you get to the point where you pay them $50 an hour? I mean, that's not my decision, but that's something that you need to think about. And I hear
I
what you're
mean,
saying.
maybe, if we made it 17 or 1675, would that clear those 2 people that are capped? Do you know? I'm just curious what that would be. Now, they may be,
I have the people that are.
I assume they're capped at 1575 right now. No, couldn't, no,
No, because
that's not
it's still going to
right.
be capped at 16.
That's right, so they're making more than 1652.
I don't
see
remember
how
off the
that
top
Why
of
don't
my
you just
head.
go, why don't you just go to the
Don't see
same
how
as
it
the
works.
new 2, 1951 is the max. Start at a lower, but get to the same max, and then those 2
Then,
won't
I
be capped
mean,
anymore.
you're kind of picking and choosing then your pays based upon a
Well,
market.
we are
that
anyway,
Paid for, well,
giving everybody pay grade 5 or 6 and above much larger raises, and people at the bottom, we're talking pennies.
they're not raises, they're market
Well,
rates
we're
for
allowing
those
them to
jobs.
get raises. Their
This
increase.
has nothing to do with raises.
Is their salary
It has
going
to
to
do
go
with
up?
market rate.
Is their
of
salary gonna go up?
positions. Right now, no. This has nothing to do with anybody's salary.
Okay.
This has nothing to do with salary.
Another question.
This is market rate for positions. If you were an engineer versus a laborer, the market rate for an engineer is going to be much different than the market rate for a
I'm
laborer.
saying the other page that we talked about. Those people are going up.
That has nothing to do with this. Unless they were a general laborer,
Oh, but it had to do with
one,
my
or a
comment.
kennel attendant.
Never mind.
Huh? No, I want to answer your question.
No, it's not, no question.
Okay.
I have a question. On your pay grade 1, we have the existing 1575 as the max, and 6 people are capped at that max, and you've proposed to go to 1652, and somehow 2 people are still at that cap. How can you make 1652 if the max is 1575?
Okay, say that one more time.
Because we didn't cut people's pay if they were already hired.
If they were already there, those are
I'm guessing that's the
probably
answer. I should let her
long-term
answer, but I
employees.
think that's why.
Okay.
I mean, and again, the new pay grade is based upon that 1.49% across the board. Just put that in,
People that are making more than 1575 are making more than 1575.
and now they're still making more than 1652, yes.
But
Because
they
those are
make
long-term
that because of their
employees.
longevity. and
Those
because
two
of their
individuals have been here
performance
since like 1978. I'm seriously.
No, they cannot go up any further than what they're at now, so that they
Right.
know that they will never get a raise again.
Now, keep in mind, too, those are also people,
Yeah, bump it to,
whether it makes a
They will
difference or
get
not,
raises.
$4,000 of longevity.
They've obviously gotten raises.
people don't get.
Took them above the cap.
Right.
They will
before we
continue.
implemented these things, before we implemented this kind of pay scale.
Because they had been here for so long.
You're right, they're
Correct.
grandfathered in.
You're right, Scott.
So those are people who have probably not had a raise already in 5 years anyway,
Yes.
and they're still
Yes,
not
there are
going to
about
get a
6
raise.
of those, and yes.
I'm not saying we should pay our general laborers $50 an hour, but that just doesn't seem right. How do we,
You know what?
Maybe we can
I
look
look
at
at the
cost
data
of living
based upon
stipends.
market rate. I try to keep the person out of it.
No, the only way they got raised, and they probably did every once in a while, because every once in a while we did a flat, everybody gets $500 kind of thing.
That happened one time.
They had one time, okay.
But again, like I
I
just
thought we
mentioned,
did that
Nathan, you're talking about people, whether, this is, I'm not saying I agree, disagree, right, wrong, indifferent. You've got people that have longevity, so they're also getting $4,000 a year that somebody starting today or last week or 2 years ago don't get. So they are, in essence, being rewarded. But to your point, I get where you've got somebody who's been here for 25, 30 years that you kind of want to reward.
Part of the old system was a longevity. Every year you were here, you got a little bit of a bonus every year. And
$200 a year for every year of service up to 20 years, up to $4,000.
we continued that for those people if they stayed here, but all the new hires did not get that longevity bonuses.
That makes it better.
So is that what in effect is putting them over? Is that figured in as an hourly
No, it's not
amount?
figured in,
No,
no.
At the end of the year, they cut them a check.
They
At the
get
end of the year, they get their
$4,000
$4,000.
Okay, plus that, okay, well,
Mm-hmm.
a little better.
Whereas person A, B, and C, starting 2 years ago to now, don't have that incentive. I call it an incentive, a bonus pay,
got about 10 more minutes to wrap up.
oh gosh, okay. The only thing that, let me just say this, so you don't come back and I come back at the end of the year and you're saying I'm messing with you again, trying to change the ordinance or trying to change the pay grade, just so you know, Department of Labor, it's kind of on hold right now, but we expect to have an answer probably by December, definitely by December, I'm thinking October, that they're changing the base pay for the exemption. It's going from 23,330 to, they're talking about 50,000, so we're going to have a handful of positions that I'm already looking at and we're already reevaluating that are probably going to go into an exempt status. So that could change this, whereas probably anybody like above a pay grade 6 would just be exempt. So I don't want to be thinking that I said this now and then come back in 4 or 5 months and throw something else at you. Do you want to talk about the seasonal pay grade? Let me give you what I have, or is that maybe something for another day? Because it might be something for another day. I don't know. I hate to overwhelm you, but just to kind of, and I can pass them out when we're done and give you the copies. But I can kind of let you know what we've done since we've implemented the Kronos and the BSNA software. The Parks Department has had these traditional, I call them outliers. I mean, it's like every time you turn around, you know, who's this person and where are they and where do they work? You know, we have a kennels attendant, we have concession people at the field house, we have ice rink worker, ice rink manager, pool this, pool that. So we have finally pretty much corralled Paul about once every 3 weeks and sat him down and locked him in a room to try to figure out who all these people are, gotten our arms around all these folks and who they are, who's seasonal and who's temporary, like regular, not permanent. We don't ever want to call them permanent, but regular part-time employees. Have developed job descriptions for all of those people. So I have pay grades for seasonal and I have pay grades for our regular. Like we have somebody that cleans the restrooms, like we have river stage people, and they've really typically or historically been paid on claim or have been paid, I'm not real sure how, but anybody's getting a paycheck now through payroll, we have identified who they are and have a job description for them and have them in a pay grade. But instead of putting them in a regular full-time pay grade, we have a seasonal pay grade and then we have a part-time regular pay grade. And one of the things that Nikki and Paul have proposed also for their staff is this year we're actually going to have, what do we call it, a shallow water attendant. I guess in an effort for them to try to save some costs at the pool. For anybody that's been to Aquatic Center, the pool on the right is kind of like the kiddie pool, and it's like zero depth to like 2 feet pool. There's now a certification through American Red Cross, so you can be a shallow water attendant, not a guard. So we'll probably have them like in separate suits and separate training and everything. Like they'll be in that section guarding the kiddie pool, but can't be in a chair like in the big pool. So with that, I have, and it shows, and if you want me just to wait and do this at another time and not give you all this now, we can do that. But we're looking at, primarily because Metro Louisville, July 1st, they're increasing all their parks people and all their seasonal people to $8.50 an hour. The New Albany pool, their shallow attendants and their guards are making like $8.50, $9, and $10. We have a proposal for $8 an hour, and we have a proposal for $8.50, just to humor you and show you the impact. So, and then you guys can make
Could
that
a canine
decision.
do that?
Huh?
Could a canine do that?
Could a canine do what?
Have it sit and watch the pool, and if somebody goes under, jar them out? Just bark, yeah. I'm hungry, I'm sorry, Kim. If I would've had Chinese, I'd be better.
Sorry, if I'd have known it, if I thought that's all it took, I'd have brought you Chinese, if that's...
Call it in,
No.
So I know I've got a lot, I'm sorry, but it's, and we're already starting the process of hiring, letters have
I
already
said
gone
we're
out
going
to
to
all
have to
the...
have a couple workshops just on salary ordinance and your stuff, just from going over the stuff I
I
knew
mean,
about when I
I've
was
been working on
president.
this for like 8 months, so I can't help the timing. I wish I could have done it before. But welcome to my world. So,
I guess,
do you want those copies? Do you want to wait and do that at a meeting?
I'd like comments.
Yeah, do it.
Okay.
I'd like to comment. Talk like Lincoln Crown.
What?
Talk like Lincoln Crown. An auctioneer. I get loose lips when I'm hungry.
Take your position, buddy.
I know that's an
Take
important
it.
part of it.
Assume your position.
I understand.
Hello, buddy. How you doing?
Look at the language, and I wish the blue. 2 companion documents are the city's base rate at 8.
Oh, Mr. Webb.
Let's take one of each of these. These are the 2 seasonal proposed impacts, with the 850 and the 8. What's
Pass it, start that.
And these are for seasonal. And I may need to tweak some of these because we've just been wrapping this up. And then when Matt requested that I be here at this workshop, I asked him if he wanted us to do this as well. So these are like hot off the press today.
So we're paying people the actual minimum wage, federal minimum wage?
Yes, we're paying them $7.25. The other thing with the seasonal is one of the things that we're going to do this year is we're going to cap their experience at 6 years in an effort. I know I've talked with Paul Northam, and apparently, I guess, the budget with parks, we spend a lot of money on payroll and stuff with kids and seasonal employees. So we're going to cap it at 6 years. So once it's kind of like maxing out. Some of those people were just talking about, once you've been here for so long, we can only afford to pay you as a lifeguard X number of dollars. I know it gets confusing, that's why I wanted to maybe do
I mean,
it.
they can still work here, but they're not going to make more money.
Right, yes. I did this just to kind of show the impact, and I had Liz run the numbers on the 8 and the 850 so that you all, in anticipation that as soon as I said 8, somebody might say, well, let's see what it looked like if we did 825 or 850. So I know it's probably more information than you want. And if we need to schedule another meeting with myself and Paul, and if you need Liz,
So if I'm reading this right, if we go for 850,
you're looking at seasonal, the impact or the pay?
Okay, which?
the impact,
Okay.
$12,385 or $86?
Which one's he on?
No, 24,000.
This one?
Look at the bottom left. Oh, wait, no.
Okay.
Now I'm confused. I left my cheat sheet for him upstairs too.
We're looking at the,
Regular part-time pay wages for 2016, right?
right.
There's my seasonal.
Kim,
And I'm trying to figure out which one. You get the impact proposed parks regular?
Yeah,
Part-time?
right, regular part-time.
right.
Yes.
20 hours a week for a full year.
Yes.
$12,000
And
additional.
that was just where we left. Very few of those work 20 hours a week. Most of those field house monitors, just because we couldn't, they're almost all high school students who come in after work, go over to the concession stand 2 or 3 hours. We just did a ballpark 20, trying to look at payroll and look at how many hours I mean, you've got people that work 3 hours in a month, you got somebody that works 40 hours in a month. So we just tried to look at all that collectively and just give a amount to it. And behind the scenes, what you don't have, which I sadly and unfortunately misinstructed Patsy to do, that's all the data behind all the individuals and how long they've been here and what they're currently paying. And some people, the pay's not been real consistent.
Let me just say this, from the Parks Department point of view, because of our low pay, we have a hard time getting and keeping quality part-time seasonal employees for lifeguards and for working concessions, because now New Albany's opened the pool and Clarksville's expanded their pools and stuff. We can't keep our people with the
Now,
wages.
Clarksville's closing for the summer. They will not be open, so that may help us this year.
Let's lower
but,
our
we
rates.
lose a lot of,
I thought we did
we lose a
raise
lot of
the
kids
rates.
to Kentucky Kingdom that pay like $12 an hour.
Oh, yeah, that's the other, yeah, Kentucky Kingdom sucked a lot of people.
They make some bank over there.
Right.
So for what it's worth, I guess at some point, I know we probably need some follow-up. Anybody that wants to delve into this deeper, give me a buzz and I'll set aside time and we'll discuss it. And I guess, Matt, do I just wait to hear from you on collectively how to, I know that's a lot and I apologize, but I've been kind of holding on to this for a while.
Is your recommendation to move the base to 850? Do you have a recommendation?
I think to Ed's point, I think 850 will weed out quite a few people. I think 850, I think from a market standpoint, when you look at what New Albany's paying and what Louisville's paying and what Metro Louisville's going to start paying, I think that's in a line. I mean, we have a lot of kids that we do orientation with, where they're making $7.25, they go to Kroger and make $8 an hour.
I'll answer it, yes. I talked to Paul about it, and that's exactly what happens. After they get a little bit of experience with us, they go down the road for,
And we're spending
$8, $9,
hours
$10
of
an hour.
orientation, pre-employment drug testing, background screenings. We do we've got a specialized seasonal orientation that we do that takes about an hour and a half. And then they don't show up to work and you call them or their mom calls and says, guess what, Johnny got a job at Kroger and he want me back.
Sure.
I'd heard that you all were thinking about putting in a stipend for secretary for the council. You all don't need to do that. I appreciate it. I don't think you all impose on us whatsoever. I will be taking the finance committee minutes, and if I'm not there, then I'll either get Patty or Patsy to do it. So, to me, that's just, as far as I'm concerned, we can do that. We'll do the workshops, if that's okay with you all.
Unless anybody has anything else, can we take a motion to adjourn? And
So moved.
we're adjourned. We'll be back in 10 minutes.